Assalamu alaikum. Here we go. I think I'm live. خدا بکش دست جور بخیر روغی است. خدا کنه خوب باشین جور باشین. First off, look at this shirt. Okay. Officially sponsored by Belingistan. That's her design right there. You can see it. The joy که آب رفته باز هم میرود. What a beautiful scenery, what a beautiful art. I just love this. The whole kite, the eyes, the background, the hills and the houses. It's very nostalgic. It's very beautiful. It reminds me of back home Kabul. Or you could say Mazar Sharif, you could say Laghman, you could say Paktia. Oh, we have that image everywhere. So Khanam Tanya Jan, Tashakur, how are you? Nice to have you. You are first as always. Thank you very much. Much respect. Thank you. Hope you're well. Hope your family is well. I'm just really overwhelmed because these shirts aren't just cool, they aren't just pretty, they aren't just trendy and very artistic by our own Afghan artist, Shamal John from Belingistan, but they actually contribute to the charity Durkhanum, who are training Afghan women in Kabul to learn tailoring skills, and they buy them all these tailoring machine and train them in order to start their own work and to be able to make a living out of that during these very, very devastating times. So this is a charity actually. All the money we spent on these shirts will go to the charity of Durkhanum, and you get a free shirt, which I have and many others, and I just love this. Look at that. It's just pretty fucking awesome. Really artistic. Thank you very much, Shamal John Belingistan, for this. I'm honored. Thank you very much, and it's a beautiful piece of art. So today I'm very excited. I'm waiting for Khanam Samia Karimi, a beautiful personality, a beautiful soul, a beautiful artist, in its essence, a real artist, Afghan artist, an activist, beautiful activist who's been very vocal and very active in this past, especially since I have known her for this past 4 months. And she's trying to do as much as she can, like a lot of us. So without further ado, let's just bring her in. I'm very excited. I get overwhelmed by true artists. So getting fat, I can't fit into this freaking chair. It's actually be Salam alaikum.
Oh, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tashakkar. Samia Jan muhtaram. Shoma chiyal darin? How are you?
تشکر خودتان خوب هستین؟ چی خبره؟
تشکر بسیار زیاد. خبرها همگیش خبرهای خوش است. تشکر که شما تشریف آوردین. You actually accepted finally after 4 months of trying to get you here.
I was waiting.
I'm overwhelmed.
I was waiting for the official invite.
Oh yeah, of course. My bad. I'm sorry. It took me a while to actually learn how to do official invites because I was so kurdaki, you know, just go, hey, چطور هستی؟ خوب هستی؟ Let's do a live. Sorry for that.
You know, Afghano, they come bekhabar, you know, mimani, you know, for mimani. So, you know, sometimes it's okay to just show up and ask to join a live podcast. I'll do that in the future.
What is this? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Lamar John, for inviting me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I am honored. Of course, I'm honored. And as I said, I mentioned at the start that Samia John has been a true inspiration for a lot of us with the work that she has done and she's doing. Because I remember you were one of the first people with Miss Mina or Mina Sharif and Shamal, who actually supported us during Rock Kabul, the other podcast that we used to run, and you guys were always there supporting us and cheering us, and that was just incredible. So thank you very much for that. And since then till today,
I'm a huge fan of you guys, and I came across Rock Couple. I don't know how I came across it, like 4 months ago, I think you were saying, and I was just amazed by the film, but even more so, I was just very intrigued and curious about you guys, you know. And so knowing social media, easy access, you can reach out to anyone. So it's grateful to meet you. And I've learned so much about Afghan diaspora through your podcast, through Blingenstan's and Mina's podcast. So it's just, you know, social media can be used to connect in a real way as well. So I really appreciate these long form interviews.
True. I mean, I was actually surprised in a very good way that how small our community actually is, because I was always away from this whole Instagram thing, and I came only to do that podcast, and I realized slowly that we're not really that big of a community, and thankfully we do still have that whole essence or feeling of hamwatani. You can actually reach to one of your fellow Afghan artists, no matter how actually big and famous they are, but they always find time to reply to you, and that's beautiful. That's absolutely amazing. And I was really, as I said, shocked in a good way. But coming back to Muhtarama Samia Karimi, first of all, you look beautiful, mashallah, mashallah.
Thank you. I have my mother. I have a photo of my mother, John. I just want to show real quick.
God bless.
That was her.
God bless.
Yeah. All right. God anyway, bless. Continue. I am ready and I am excited.
Okay. I am excited as well. I think you're all pumped up. That's good. Okay. So, you know, as I always do this, just an icebreaker, right? Just icebreaker. We will do a rapid fire round. So I'm gonna ask you some silly questions, some trick questions, some here and there, and you gotta just reply to that, whatever comes to your mind first. So we just get going. Cool? You good, Samia John? All right, beautiful. So this is something that I ask every one of my friends or guests. Well, everyone, I see them as my friends. So if you could go back in time and meet one historical figure, who would that be and what would you ask?
This is an interesting, you know, before today, I was thinking about Rabia, you know, Rabia Balkhi. And Rabia Balkhi. But today, I was very curious. I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about a lot of the hadiths were captured by the Muslim women in the beginning, right? So the wives of the Prophet, his nearest relatives. And so I was thinking, what would it be like to be a wife or a sister or, you know, in the family of the Prophet Muhammad? You know, what was the original, you know, story of this man? So I changed my answer to a close relative of Ustad, a close relative of
Ustad as well. Yes.
And Ustad Asad Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Beautiful, beautifully replied. I think I've had a couple of friends who did say that. One of them was Farishta John Tayev. She said that she would love to meet him, and of course, if I had the chance, I would do that as well.
Yeah.
You know, I might be torn a bit between Hazrat Muhammad and Hazrat Ibrahim, but these are very two different, I should say, personalities, even though they're both the lover and prophets of our God. Okay, beautifully replied, and your context was very precise and beautiful. So of course, all right. So because last time I watched you live, unfortunately, because of you guys had some technical issues which we are very, very well familiar with AK-13. And were you kind of hungry that day, or you hadn't had your lunch or something? Because you asked a lot about food. I was like, I'm gonna ask you something about food. Yeah, I'm gonna ask you something about food.
When it comes to Afghan food, like, you know, you talk about it.
Well, I'm gonna give you some real good Afghan food. You were very generous with those young boys that you offered them oshak and mantu. Very generous. Okay, so one Afghan meal, if you could have forever, which one would you choose? Would it be korme gulpi or korme kalam? I'm not sure even if you had those things.
Korme gulpi. Gulpi is cauliflower, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have that one. My mom used to make.
So have you ever tried the korme cabbage, kalam?
I have, but we didn't cook with cabbage that much in our house.
Okay.
But I remember my mom made really good korme gulpi. Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. Me being coming from a Pashtun family, I'm tired of gulpi. So I used to tell my mom, if you make gulpi, give me that day off. I'm gonna go out because I would rather go for cabbage. But hey, okay, that was good. So you go for gulpi. No shajar, no shajar. Try enjoying that for whole life. Okay, so which one would you choose between these two? Being in heaven without music and dance, or having your art but living it eternally in the damnation of hell?
Oh my God, what? Wait, say that again. That's like, yeah, it's hard for my brain to
yeah, we jump from gulpi right into heaven and hell. Okay, so which one would you choose? Heaven without dance and music, or eternal damnation of hell with your art?
Oh my God. Well, my art, dance, and music is my heaven. So there you go. I'd rather be in hell and make my art.
Wow, that's a big statement, my friend. That's a very big statement. I like that.
No,
I like that.
who knows?
Very,
I might meet other cool artists down there.
Oh, of course you will. Of course you will. You will meet a lot of rock stars anyways. At least that's what we have heard. So I'm jealous. Beautiful. Okay, so if you had to choose between these two, losing your hearing or losing a limb because you're a dancer, so which one would be the worst for you?
Losing an earring. Losing an earring. That's my biggest fear, is to like, although you can dance, you know, without a limb, that's my biggest fear, is like I'll injure my leg and that's it. You know, I can't move.
So losing your hearing would be the worst because
losing
you wouldn't feel.
No, my limb
oh, limb. Oh, okay. Fair enough. All right. Which one would you hate the most? Saz besur or zarb belai?
Oh, I need a little help translating. Saz besur, like.
Okay. Saz besur is out of tune music. Zarb belai is out of rhythm.
Oh shoot. Probably out of tune. I'm very much a rhythm person. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I really want to know some more about this, because so with tune, it gives you that ecstatic, the ecstasy feeling of feeling the mood. Does it actually work as the colors and in the mood that you would dance at? Or if we talk about besur and rhythm is there, then you might be able to just do it on a news channel, just talking, and there is a rhythm behind it. Do you actually lose yourself that much into the rhythm?
I think I do, because sometimes even out of tune, creates an emotion that you can't otherwise access. But, you know, that's just theoretical.
Beautiful. I actually heard from this Bollywood singer, can't, oh, it's something called Arjit Singh. Arjit Singh. He's been really popular in this past 10 or 15 years. And he said that my teacher told me that whenever, don't be scared of losing your voice, because if you practice a lot and if you do your whole your vocal warm-ups and you lose your voice, don't be scared of going to perform with that voice, because most people do not perform if they lose their voice, because they can't actually hit those notes and the tone of their sound is different. So he said that my Ustad used to tell me that even that, losing your voice, that has a feeling to it. If you can express that, that's whole another thing. So yeah, beautifully answered. Samia Jan,
that's good.
Thank you very much. You were actually very well prepared, I must say.
I didn't know what was going to come at me, but I was prepared.
No, it was good. It was good. Very, as we said, rapidly fired round. Thank you very much. All right. So, Samia Jan, I doubted that there are people watching this who wouldn't know you, but still, give us a little bit brief about yourself. Where do you come from? What do you do?
Okay. Are we going back to the 70s or?
Wherever you want to go.
Well, let's start from a place of now. Now I am a single mom, and I have been a single mom of Sophia for most of her life. She's 14. But besides that, I've really found my identity through the art of dance these past 11 years. And dance was always something that was just on the side, you know, it was like a class here or there, a little performance here or there. And it wasn't until I really became enchanted by Central Asian culture and dance and music that I kind of channeled my way back to who I am as an Afghan. And I was born in Afghanistan. I was born in 1974. So this was a time when there was still relative peace. It was the calm before the storm of the Soviet Union and what came after. We left Afghanistan when I was 5 years old, and that was because my father, his job where he worked, it made him a target for the incoming Soviets. So we escaped, basically, we came to the United States, and I have grown up in California, US, on the West Coast since that age. And yeah, it's been very much, my childhood was very much an Afghan childhood. We grew up with Khorme Kulfi, with Chalao, Ashak, all that. We grew up with music. My mom always had her little cassette player and was always playing the classics, you know, Afghan musicians from the 70s, 80s, Bollywood, the old Mughal songs, the classic Bollywood. And so we grew up with that, sprinkled a little bit of Michael Jackson, a little bit of Madonna, and, you know, but it wasn't until I was, I think, a teenager when I started feeling this rupture between me as an Afghan and me as like an American. And I went to college. I became super religious. I actually studied Islamic studies in college, and at that point I didn't know where it was going to lead me. But I was overseas after college for a couple of years in Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia, in the Peace Corps, and I came back and I kind of just went into a direction where I was in survival mode for 10 years until I discovered dance, you know. So that's the past 4 decades actually, in a nutshell.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm torn between these two different details. So I'm going to start with the priority, I think. Uh, where did the love of dance come from out of all these art forms?
Oh, for me, it's always been music. I literally cannot survive without music. I just, there's so much out there in terms of music to access, and it's infinite, what you can do. And music has that power to capture memory, and it's an instant portal to a time in your life, and I actually believe it's a portal into a time of your life in the future too, sometimes without knowing it. And so the power of music always, for me, my language was dance, and it was almost something like I can't control, when I hear something, it's like the energy comes from here, or sometimes it comes from here, or from my feet, or so it's an expression. It's I kind of struggle with the word dance, because you type dance in Google and you get all these images of ballerinas, modern dancers, blah blah blah. Dance is like there's a whole world of dance out there. Dance is storytelling. And so short answer, music was my gateway. And because I love to express music in my body, it just came naturally. And then when I started exploring dance, teaching it to children, to adults, choreographing, that's when I realized this is a powerful tool for transformation in myself. So I'll leave it there.
Beautiful.
There's so much.
Of course, and we will try to go into as much as we can. The study of Islamic studies, because obviously you come from an Afghan family, and from what I heard and in your last interviews that I've followed, and as I can see through your art, it's very traditional Afghan family, and going into the Islamic studies, and then from there finding your own art inside you to be expressed as dance. How did this Islamic studies decision came by?
Mm-hmm. I mean, Islamic studies, I actually went to college on a mechanical engineering major.
Oh,
I was going to be an
wow,
engineer.
Okay.
And then what happened was I started failing all my classes. And finally, the dean of the engineering school calls me in and says, "You're on the wrong side of campus." So I ended up taking some Islamic studies classes because I was curious. It was very much a curiosity. Like, okay, I'm Muslim, I'm saying Shahada, I'm praying Al-Fatiha, but what does this mean? Like, I don't even speak Arabic, and so it was curiosity. And then I realized that the curiosity just grew and grew and grew, and I eventually got my degree in Islamic studies. At the same time, I had questions as a Muslim woman. I had questions about the place of women in society, the censorship of women, the physical place of a woman inside a masjid, and I never got any satisfying answers from anyone why it is the way it is. So my curiosity now, 20 years later, my curiosity about Islam is still there. But now it's like I've detoured around Muslims, and now I want to get to like the source of it. So my curiosity now is more about the mystical side, the mythical side even of Islam, So that aside, how did I get into dance, right? From that, or the how Islam sees and views dance, maybe.
But I think you have replied very beautifully that part, that how did you actually get into the Islamic studies, and what made you go there, which was all by we can say some sort of an accident, but then you actually had that intention inside you, as we all do. I hope, I mean, that we all do as born Muslims, you know, born by tradition Muslims, that we are just born and we say, okay, because my parents are, so I am as well.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty big mistake that most of us do, is that we don't really go by ourselves to do our own research and to learn. So that was said very beautifully. Before going into the whole, maybe I should say, the barriers of art and the pure Islam, before we get into that, I remember I saw your interview, and I think that was very recent, maybe from now a month ago or something. You had an interview, and you did speak about, you did mention some really good details in that, which until I heard you say that, then I realized that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned about, okay, if Afghan people in our culture, there's a group of women dancing that isn't really looked down on. But if there's one woman starts to dance, that looks a bit weird. Or if it's some sort of a monetary exchange, that looks weird and that looks down upon. Where if it's a TV show and there's a whole group of people dancing, that's looked at as art form.
Mm.
So these were really beautiful underlying details that most of us don't actually think about or actually realize. But most of all, you mentioned about the first instance that you actually stood and danced in public when it was Eid and your parents were there. I want to know a little bit about that, and then I have a very specific thing to ask about that.
Okay. No, well, these observations are very much from my own life, you know, the Afghan community I've been around. And I did notice from early childhood that, you know, when you go to weddings, you know, as soon as you have a group of people on the dance floor, then more people join, more people. And I always remember as a child waiting for the right number of people on the dance floor before I made my entrance. And we would always go into the center where no one could see us. And, you know, we would just do our little dance. And I noticed that about my family specifically. But you know, it was women, you know, there were very few women who would just, you know, loop around the outside of the circle and show off their moves, you know. So there's definitely something about that. And then the opposite of that is I never witnessed a woman by herself dancing on the dance floor, unless it was the bride and groom, you know. And I remember one time at my sister's wedding, I believe, I saw an Afghan woman dancing with, I believe, her cousin. And she was just so carefree and alive. And I must have been 13 years old. And I remember thinking, I want that. Like, I want that freedom, that carefree, you know, expression of myself. I don't care who's watching, or I don't care if nobody's watching, right? So there was that. And then there was an occasion later on in life, this was after I've always already married, had a child. There was an Eid celebration that I was invited to, that my parents' community had hosted. And you know, everybody had dinner, everybody had their chai, the music starts, the DJ. And I was just looking around, I was like, you know, this is a celebration, people, come on, you know. And so I got on my heels, I went in the center, and I just started dancing. And like, I don't know, it was less than a minute, I turn around and I see my parents, and my mom is like, you know, like, she's got this, you just know by that look, like, get off the dance floor. My dad was just like, you know, looking away. And then I noticed, like, their close friends around them also, like, not smiling. And I'm like, it's not, this isn't a pleasant experience for them. So being a good, you know, Afghan girl, I was like, okay, I'm making people uncomfortable, let me get off the dance floor. And that happened a couple of times to me. But when I would dance in the center of a crowd, then it was okay. You know, I didn't feel that tension from them. And then there's very much, in all Islamic culture, there's very much the private and the public life. You know, what you do in the private life, you don't do in the public. Those two worlds never cross. And so it's an interesting time we're living right now, where with social media, those lines are crossing, you know, and we're beginning to see like, wow, these people are just like me, you know, I don't need to hide anything. And so it's an interesting time we live in. And
Do you
as
believe,
far as
sorry, that whole specific story that I wanted us to hear from your own words was because, do you think your reaction of your family, your parents, specifically your parents, where did it come from? Is it your personal family culture and discipline, or is it the whole tradition of not wanting to see their daughter be in front of a crowd dancing while it was Eid anyways? You know, where do you think that comes from? Because that goes really deep into a lot of aspects of artists of Afghanistan. You know, I mean,
yeah.
back in the days, as you know, we all had all sorts of art forms being done by women and men. You know, so especially moving to US, a country where if you don't adapt everything from their culture, but you assimilate, you take the good thing, you use the good opportunities, right? So for a woman to start dancing in a cultural festival or occasion, or be in a family party, when their parents give you that reaction, what do you think? Where does it actually comes from? Like most of it, the whole.
Yeah, where does it come up from them for them? You know, I'm not a generalist, and I can't make assumptions about all Afghan families. You know, for my family, that's how it was, and I think my dad still feels the same way today. He'd rather, you know, I talked to him about it, but it's not something that a topic he brings up himself ever. I think he appreciates it, but I will never know because we don't talk about it. Which is fine, you know, that's fine. I respect that, and it doesn't mean that I'm gonna completely hide who I am. As far as other Afghan families, it's a mixed bag, you know, and we can't even generalize it's a Western or Afghan thing. I think in Afghanistan, when I went to visit my relatives 5 years ago, I felt, wow, they're so open with each other. They're so warm. They're so accepting, is what I noticed after 3 weeks of being there. And then I felt like my family was maybe not so open with each other. So, you know, I can't generalize. I think for my parents, where it comes from, I mean, it's their families. It's their, you know, they inherited this thinking from their families. Generally, I would say in most Muslim countries, this is not just Afghanistan, it's in Iran, it's even in parts of India, you know, it's in Pakistan, that you know, dance is equated to sexual expression, you know, or making men excited with our bodies. So because dance has that.
Isn't that a sort of a misconception when it comes to the art of dancing? It depends on what you're trying to express, right?
Yeah, definitely. And so I think that's what I was getting at, is that if you define dance in those terms, of course, you're going to say it's haram, you know, but above everything else in Islam, the highest goal for us as Muslims and as humans is to be close to that which brings us closer to our spiritual awakening, you know. So does dance bring me closer to my spiritual awakening? Does music? Of course it does. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. Otherwise I would be bored with it. Does a man watching a woman dance and having his own thoughts, you know, not appreciating it as an art form, does that bring him closer to a spiritual awakening? Maybe not, but that's on his perception, you know. For me, dance is a devotional form. It's expression, but then it also has a devotional side to it, and
of course,
it does bring me closer to myself. It does bring me closer to community. It brings me closer to my culture, all of that. Then there's dance as an art form, right? So until we can accept that dance is an art form in all cultures, it will always be like underappreciated, not accepted, seen as a threat. And then I also think that the most ultimate freedom that we can have as humans, this is my personal belief, the most ultimate freedom we can have as humans is to be free in our bodies, like every cell in our body. For me, that means movement. That means moving my body from my house to my car, moving my body, you know, on stage, moving my body in front of a camera as an art form, very much so. But then there's dance as joy, you know, like I'm sure when you go to parties, you hear your music, like I want to move.
It's a very natural form of expression. It depending on the person as well, but I believe there are two very natural expressions of humans. When they feel excitement or when they feel any sort of other emotion which needs to come out of them, which they need to actually express, put it out. It's either singing, which could even be as screaming or yelling or crying, but still singing, still using your vocals, right? Still using your chest, still using notes, still being vocal about it. And then you've got dance. Now, when we go very spiritually, and in support of what you said, Ahmad al-Ghazali, as they say simply, as the Islamic world knows him to be the proof of Islam. Okay. Now, Ahmad al-Ghazali, to just say it very shortly, he disproved, he challenged all the scholars, all the philosophers, being from the Muslim world or the Greek world or the Italian world. He challenged all of them. He was that good at it. He was a phenomenal genius back then, you know. And he has written books how to disprove them, how to challenge them, how to dispute them. And those are books that most of us Muslims after Quran should read. But at the end of the day, he came to a realization after 12 years of going and trying to contemplate life and soul and himself. He found out that there's one group that I cannot dispute and I cannot disprove, is the Sufis. Okay, and why was that? That has a whole story to it. Okay, but the Sufis, now coming to the Sufis, the Sufism is the basis, and the base of Sufism is to express freely from your spirit and soul. And we all know about the Activist Samia and Maulana, and where did it actually come from, and how did he express it, and how do those people from that principle follow it till today? Not only them, but you go to India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and all these various Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, and Egypt, and all these places, you go to these very Sufi environments, Sufi shrines, and you will find malangs. And these malangs, they have their own specific dance they do when they go into that static feeling. You know, they may not use their shoulders to move, but I know Afghans in Kabul who were Sufis, who were into all these, they call them, I can't really remember the term now, but they have their own schools, they have their own sitting nights when they sit and they read Quran and they chant, and they're Sufis, and their forefathers come from Bukhara and Syria and all that. And these people, when I went to weddings with them, they would dance as well. Now I would do atan. I just love to do atan. Since I was a kid, that was my way of expression into dance. But I do love waltz and tango and all that too. That's so sexy. I know. I just love that. But these Sufis would stand in public in the circle of these weddings, and there would be music playing in the keyboards and whatever, and they would do their own dance. And their dance was very Sufi. You know, they would just move their head and do this. And that was their dance. That's their dance, right? Now, you said very beautifully that it depends on the perception of the person watching the dance.
Mm-hmm.
How they actually interpret that piece of art. Because District Unknown, our band, I come from a very, very open-minded family. My dad always supported my music. My mom did. They helped me. Yeah, my dad didn't really like the vocals I tried to sing because he was like, that's out of tune. But then you have Kais, whom you have met, my cousin. He used to hide his guitar from his father.
Yeah.
You know, so even it's not even about only dance, but it's about all the art forms which we Afghans find it really difficult to accept that our own sons and daughters could go do it. But if we see someone else, we'll be like, oh, beautiful, that's so good.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it also comes from the shameful fact that in society artists are not paid enough because their work, it's hard to value their work, right? Some artists are, but especially in Afghanistan, musicians, you know, they still get they still get discredited. And you know, as we heard, the Taliban are not allowing music at weddings anymore. So it's scary because all these art forms are you know, are going extinct very much before our eyes. You know, it's like the Buddhas of Bamyan, you know. And
that's
so, right?
That's what we will get right into, because that's the meat and the potatoes of this life, how to deal with this. So this is really beautiful. You have a beautiful balance in life of understanding of Islam academically and from your family. And then you are a beautiful artist, a spiritual artist, and I really admire that. That's beautiful. Where do you draw the line? As much as you know, where do you draw the line being a Muslim and an artist with music and dance?
I guess to that I would say, do any lines need to be drawn? You know, like, I think that's the beauty of art. It's like, it's very intersectional in your experiences, your memories, what you've learned. It's a reflection of life. I mean, Michigan Masumi is a scholar at Stanford, and she said it very, very nicely in an interview. She said, art imitates life and life imitates art, you know.
Yeah.
And one thing we have to also accept is that Afghan culture is also evolving. It's dynamic. You know, it should be allowed to you know, to have a space for all types of Afghans. You know, so as far as lines go, it's like, for me, I accepted at some point, I accepted that dance is devotional for me. Dance is a form of prayer for me. Dance is a form of meditation for me. It's a way for me to process life. It's a way for me to process pain, you know, and chaos that we see. So because of that, I do see it as far as a part of my, I hate the word religious, but as a part of my Islamic, I guess, practice. As far as tradition goes, you know, you have Islam and then you have tradition, you know.
Exactly.
So, you know, and the two, when we talk about Islam, we have to separate what is Islam. Like this, the whole idea behind why mullahs say music is haram, you know, why Taliban say it's haram. It's based on a surah in the Quran that says, and of mankind is he who purchases idle talk, misled from the path of Allah. This idle talk, whatever the Arabic word is, has been translated or interpreted to mean music, singing, etc. in Sharia. And we have to question that, like, why was it interpreted that way? You know, and I think there are hadiths I was hearing that even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, saying, you know, it was so and so's wedding, and he would say, where are the musicians? Bring the musicians. You know, you need some joy at the wedding. I don't remember the exact hadith. I heard it on a podcast somewhere, but anyway, it's not in Islam that is haram, you know. So where does that come from, and how long has this been existing? If we look at, for example, I'm very intrigued and curious about the Hazara dance of Pishpo that I came across years ago, and there's not a lot of documentation on it, but when I see it, it's so different than the Afghan dance that I've learned, and I think it might have shamanic roots. I wonder, I'm curious, how old is this, you know, and what kind of meaning does it have behind it? So I really think you can't draw lines. It's very dynamic and it's very complex, and for people who say they know, for people who say dance is haram, music is haram, it's because they haven't danced. It's because they don't listen to music. It's because it's not a part of their life. Frankly, they're missing out, you know?
I think when you spoke about the Hazara ethnic dance form, Ishpo, I can't wait because I do have a very dear sister, and she knows she's the Lubab, she's the Jews of the Hazara history and literature, and she's a very close partner in this charity that they're doing, Durkhanum, the Afghan women tailoring or sewing workshops. And I can't wait to have her on this little things that I have, because I would bring up the same question to her, and I'm certain that she would know about the history of it. And if I could have a chance, we will have you both on the same show, so you could talk about this art form, because we would love to know it. When it comes to drawing lines, I think we drew the line between our culture and our art form, which was metal. Metal has roots in all the dark, misleading, allegedly, rogue concepts, you know, very rogue, very rebellious form of music art. And what we were proud, and till today I'm very proud of it. I do wear a lot of piercings. I used to paint my nails. I used to have all these goatees and whatnot. When we went on the stage and we sang, that's why I'm proud of it. I say we were Afghan metal. We drew the line there, because even though in a couple of my last episodes, I said that I could have sang about strippers and cocaine, you know, and we could have gotten more spotlight, we could have gotten more promotions, you know, but we never did. That's where we drew the line. You know, people mocked us for being the devil worshippers and the Satanists, but that's all that comes with it. You know, that's pretty cool, you know, because of the look we have, because of the way we express our voices and whatnot. It's a very aggressive form of art, but we kept our culture and our religion intact with what we want to talk about. You know, some use pen, some use the knife to express what they want to talk about. Right now, they both have their own deep effects and impacts. The pen could be deadly, the knife could be a lifesaver. You never know. But we spoke about the atrocities which was happening in Afghanistan on our poor people. We spoke about corruption. We spoke about the promotion and the marketing and the increase on the opium and the drugs, and all this details and these topics which was affecting our community and our country and nation in general. That's how I see it. That's how I drew the line, right? And I'm very proud of it. And I was always hopeful and optimistic that my Lord, the God, will forgive the screaming and the yelling and the headbanging, you know, and the shots of vodka, because I was in front of all these diplomats and all these media from New York Times to Washington Post and all that, and I was telling them that this is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. and I was in their face. I was yelling at them, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I drew the line, that I didn't really talk about the strippers and the cocaine and the alcohol. Right? And I think the same thing comes when I see your art. It, as I say, I have so much respect for you because of the first time I actually looked into your art, into your, I should say, your Instagram account. The way you dress, it's so Afghan, it's so cultural, it's so Sufi, it's so Muslim. You know, the movements, the dances, the performances. The last time you did in Uzbekistan, you know, you had this beautiful Afghan attire on you, and there was nothing, there was absolutely nothing tempting to men or showing any other meaningly things. You know, it was just an art form. It was just spiritual. It was very soulful. I think you drew the line right there. You know, someone could go and be a stripper and dance on a pole. Maybe that's where you lose the whole balance of having your religion and your culture.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about drawing a line. It's just what I'm drawn to because of my upbringing and because of where I'm from. I think it's a matter of the time I was born, the place I was born, the family I was raised in. So, you know, I forgot to mention that my first dance classes were belly dance, and I was a belly dancer
Okay.
for 5 to 6
Why
years.
not?
I was belly dancing till I was 4 months pregnant. And again, for me, it was the music. I love, you know, Arabic music. I love Middle Eastern music. I love Persian music, you know. So it was the music for me, and it was the movements. They were very joyful. It was appropriate for that time in my life, my early 30s. But then something else was pulling me. Something else was pulling me back to Afghanistan. And it wasn't like I woke up one day and said, oh, I want to be an Afghan dancer. It was more like curiosity led me. There was an opportunity to dance with a dance company that actually teaches Afghan dance, that actually performs. Then there was the demand, you know, Afghan families having weddings, parties, community events. They want to see it. So they want to enjoy it. And, you know, a lot of Afghans, whether they get up and dance at a party or not, they enjoy dancing, they enjoy moving. Most do, I think. You know, so
could you please?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Could you tell me
Going
about
on.
that incident? No. Just to follow what you were saying. Could you tell us that story kindly, please, about the Afghans who wanted to
The community.
organize
Yeah.
a community thing, and you were invited to dance? Could you please talk about that a little bit, please?
So so yeah, this was like maybe 3.5, 4 years ago. And you know, I was dancing. I'm still with Ballet Afsane, and I was dancing with Ballet Afsane at the time. And so there was a couple of guys in the Afghan community in the Bay Area who wanted to do a culture event, a cultural night for Afghans, non-Afghans, for the community to get to know Afghan culture. This was going to also be shared on a screen and broadcast in Herat somewhere, I think. And so, you know, they reached out to me and I said, sure, you know, we can perform. I looked at the budget and I was like, this isn't even enough for one dancer. You know, again, speaking to the fact that artists don't get paid enough.
Of course.
You know? So anyway, I
Afghan
told the
artist.
guy, it was a great initial conversation. Like, yes, we love Afghan dance. We love, you know, we want to show our culture. As soon as I said, I can't get more dancers, it's just going to be me. There's just one dancer. They turned me down. And and their reasoning was that having multiple dancers on a screen projected in Herat is fine. Like if there were 2, 3 women dancing, it's fine. But having one woman dancing alone, no, that's shameful. And you know, and I proceeded to ask them, like, explain yourself more. How can you're saying you're uplifting Afghan culture, but here you are censoring me because I'm a, dancing alone. And they ignored me. They never responded to me. But, there's that thing again. It's like, what is it about a woman by herself, And mind you, like, I'm wearing the full regalia. I'm completely covered. All you see is my face and my hands. You don't even see the silhouette of the body because the dresses are so wide, and it's more about the dress than it is about the dancer sometimes, And so, I was just surprised and taken aback by that, because these are young Afghan men who grew up here like I did, and yet they felt very uncomfortable with having me alone. So, I question these things. It's a reflection of some people in our community, and it makes me question, like, where does this come from, But my goal as a dancer is to shift that narrative. So there's dance as art, but then there's dance as activism, dance as activism. I want to shift that narrative. I think we can access dance has so much potential for development of the brain, for developing of our culture, for being a container of history,
Exactly.
bringing us closer together. There's so much potential for positivity in our culture, and it won't happen in my lifetime because, as you know, musicians in Afghanistan are still getting banished and not and underappreciated. But dance isn't even talked about. It's not even talked about. There's no dance schools in Afghanistan. When was the last time there was a dance school in Afghanistan?
I don't know of it. Yeah, right. I don't know of it. But you know what? Every household has a dance school, if you see it in that way, right? The girls before any weddings of their cousins, of their brothers, or their sisters, they practice for weeks on end. Just to be prepared for that, And this is the fault of our people. Now, I ask this specific time in your experience is because why are we undermining our own art, ourselves, and then we go and cry for our art? People, today's regime, extreme radical regimes or ideologies, could have never accomplished if we would have stood up for our own culture, for our own traditions, for our own art, right? Radicals and extremists would never accomplish what they want to if we promote our own art, if we keep our own art, if we promote our own art. Don't get me wrong. I love the balance of the world. I love a balance, right? If our people, our own young Afghans in a country like US are embarrassed or ashamed to show an Afghan artist on the screen by herself showing Afghan art, then I don't blame those people who have been radicalized for 17 years of their life. The death of our art and culture starts from where these people, such individuals, have actually limited and prohibited what could be shown, what should be shown.
Yeah.
I don't find fault in them, because they're very open about it. Okay, music is haram. They're very open about it. But then we have these people, okay, we want dancers, but we don't want one, we want three. Make up your mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's our fault. We are killing ourselves.
Right.
We're killing our own culture. And then we put the fault on those people because we are not comfortable with our own selves. That's the fault.
Yeah.
That's why we... Yes.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, please. No, please. محترم بفرمایید.
Okay. No, I forgot what I was saying. No, I was just, I think I was going to speak more to the timing of dance also is important. You know, we were, you know, I'm going to bring this up because this was recent.
I know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say. Okay.
You know what I'm talking
Okay.
about. So, you know, Los Angeles activists, our beloved activist community, working nonstop, round the clock for Afghanistan. We decided to have an LA protest, you know, and this was right after August, you know, 15th, right after, around that time, I believe, yeah. And you know, we planned this for weeks. We you know, I think it was very successful, you know, in my opinion. We even had art there for people to come make art. And spontaneously at the end of the march, an Atan circle formed, you know, and I think people felt, you know, enlivened and hopeful and energetic after. Oh, I'm gonna have to plug my phone in because the charge is dying. So I'll continue. You know, so what we did is we went ahead and we had, we were wrapping up, and there was, you know, some people were protesters, some people were just, you know, part of the organizing team. Anyway, so this Atan broke out, and even myself, I found myself like, you know, energized, because Atan, like, traditionally is also for battle. You know, we were like, we're ready, let's fight.
It is. Yeah.
Let's fight, you know, and so I wanted to go, and I didn't. I got busy. Anyway, the very next day, as footage of the Atan was aired and on social media, the very next day there was a huge backlash, you know, from people all over the world. Why are you guys celebrating when, you know, people are dying? What's going on? You know, and that one image stuck in their heads, that one perception kind of erased all the hard work we had done up to that point, all the hard work we continue to do for Afghanistan. And I just felt that was an opportunity for us to sit and talk about it, you know, and really open that question up. Okay, maybe the timing was wrong, but let's talk through things, you know, as a model for how we want to behave as humans. And that opportunity was lost because, as we know, you know, every day we're swiping through millions of different headlines, and the stories shift. Anyway, so that question really, as a dance artist, it made me back up. Like, the timing is not right for certain things, but there's also an opportunity. So what has shifted for me in the last 6 months as a dancer is, I've really thought about what it means to be an activist and an artist. Like, how can I bring those two worlds together? So for me, yeah, go ahead.
That's where my last question for today will be, because I don't want you to be standing up. You're so kind to do this. I really admire it.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Like, open it up for questions if we have time after we finish.
I'm going to give you a little bit of detail into that incident which happened, and people took it in a wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
This could be people's own traumas. We don't know.
Yeah.
This could be people out of envy. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This could be people who were not prepared for such a thing, or they don't know the history of it. We don't know.
Yeah.
Two things. First of all, I did message you, and I remember what you said. Mm-hmm. And you are one of two people who have said that. That was beautiful coming from you as an artist, as such a spiritual artist, is that why don't we go all of us, and just flood Afghanistan?
Mm.
That was such a beautiful statement. That was very patriotic. That was very sacrificial, you know, because it's a very nationalistic view that shows your spirit and your love for your nation and people. That comes from a point of pain, you know. So the people to know, they will hear this probably 10 years from now. They will go and look for that incident of Atan. They would have to know about this. And you being one of the organizers, working tirelessly, I know, to organize that. and people looking at it that way or trying to portray it in the wrong manner. That's wrong in itself. The meaning of atan, maybe not to take sides with those people, but the meaning of atan might have differed only when it came to, as we said, it's a war dance, right? It's a war dance. Now, atan, in my Pashtun tribe, when we do atan, we first hold hands. Okay, we make a circle. Then we have two shair, two poets, which are well known in the tribe that these two are poets. And they do sher jangi. They compete with poem. One questions, the other answers. One challenges the other. They talk. This comes to a point where it gets so aggressive, where it gets so overwhelming and emotional. Then they start the attack.
Wow, I've never heard that.
Yes, Sher Jangi is a very common practice in our atan. When we do atan in our celebrations, is there are well-known poets of the family, and they will stand up and they will challenge each other, dispute while being in the circle. Second of all, attire matters a lot. You know, as I said, hopefully people will know that I'm not taking away anything and I'm not supporting those people, but they never thought really that about it. They don't know, but they have to know now. That what really triggered them is perhaps the attire, the way that it was conducted. Maybe the video was too short. Maybe the video was taken from a different angle. But the meaning of the whole dance is a warrior dance. It's an act of war. The essence of the act matters the most. You know, be it some sister was in her shorts, jeans shorts, or just jeans, or bayqul, or the dudes were just in asal shirts or t-shirts. You know, yeah, it could look weird, but the essence of the act matters. You know, if we would have had 10 Afghan men, 10 Afghan women in their Afghani clothes and peron tomban, and they would have done, which we do in our atan. It's infamous. That's the original atan. During the atan, when we do that poem thing, we make this noise. This is a war noise, like the Polynesians, right? We do. This is what we do.
Oh wow!
Do this.
So interesting.
And that's like the alarm of war to wake up the warriors, you know. So all these things might have come into play, but those people who actually bloomed it and took it all in the wrong context, they don't even know about this stuff. The last question, the Afghan diaspora, as much as you know them, you have been very active, tirelessly. I can see you're involved in a lot of different activities, trying to help the refugees, the immigrants, trying to help the people in Afghanistan, trying to make these workshops for charities, for funds. You have been active. And if you could tell us briefly, what is the responsibility of the Afghan diaspora, who are very well settled in Europe and Americas? What is their responsibility for most priority?
I mean, there are a lot of things, but I think the biggest priority right now is there's this whole war of information going on, you know, and I think we really need to question where we're getting our news from, number one. And number two, we are responsible for uplifting the truth as much as possible. So once we have, you know, legitimate sources for our information, then it is our obligation and duty to call mistruths when we hear them. And you know, I think we all know there's huge propaganda campaigns on all sides, you know, but you know, our eyes can't lie to us. Like what we're seeing coming out of Afghanistan is you can't deny it, you know. It's just crazy. So secondly, I think there's a huge humanitarian crisis right now.
I
mean, I think, like, how many million Afghans are there in diaspora who are well off enough to contribute $1 a day for the rest of the year, for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years? Can you imagine, like, there's, I don't know, 7 million Afghans in diaspora who can do that in California or in the United States? Like, if we were to give $1 a day, like, we can do it, and we have to do it. The Afghans in Afghanistan have had so much stolen from them for so many years. And whether we like it or not, our hands are in it too.
Of course.
Living in the West, being privileged in our homes. I think a lot of us are making a lot of sacrifices, but it's not enough of us. So secondly is, like, we have to face the humanitarian crisis. And then, overall, it's like, how are we going to change who holds power in Afghanistan? We really have to ask that question. How are we together collectively going to do that? The power shift, if that doesn't happen, it's like doomsday. It's just doomsday. So I think ultimately it's like we have to know what the facts are. We have to know what the truth is. We have to reach out, because we can. We can. I mean, I was thinking, I probably spend like $10 a month or $10 every week on coffee, and I was like, I went to the store the other day and I was like, I'm just going to buy a bag of coffee for $2 and not buy coffee every day.
There you go. That's the biggest, that's a beautiful statement. That's very powerful. Self-sacrifice of these little pleasures that we have for a very great cause. We pay so much money on Netflix, on HBO, on pay-per-view, and our gyms and our coffee. Just don't add cream to your coffee. Save that $1. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, just stop going to all these fancy gyms that just do a home workout, which we all know we can, and help your people back home who are dying of starvation. Just.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to call out like some organizations. Uplift Afghanistan by Ilaha John. She instead of creating a new nonprofit, she also runs Enabled Children's Initiative, which have been doing great work for the last almost 10 years, I think. But Uplift Afghanistan, really, she said, okay, let's make a fund where we know like there's like 4 or 5 categories of places that need funding, and they've already curated lists of organizations already doing the work. You don't have to create a nonprofit, just help the ones that are doing the work. So there are a lot of organizations. Ariana Delvari also posted a thread on Twitter, trying to sift through and uplift the ones that are valid and legitimate. So you can follow her on that. There's a lot we can do.
I would kindly request you to send me a couple of those links or account names, so I could post under this episode description. For now, you've been standing for too long, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, I'm not
Samia John,
standing, I'm kneeling.
Karimi, thank you very much. I can't say enough how honored I am to have you here finally talk to us and to our future youngsters and artists. A final takeaway from your own words to our children and the children of children who might be able to see it. Give them something in very short about art and expressing themselves and the freedom of soul.
Art is a beautiful and fun way to become intimate with yourself, and it's something that nobody could ever take away from you. It exists beyond you as well as inside you, and art is healing, art is activism, art is resistance, uh, art is pure potential. You know, the more creative minds we have out there, the more we can imagine better worlds and better futures, and really like make it what we want it to be. So I really encourage everyone to support your Afghan artists. There are tons of Afghan artists. To support the budding artists. If you have children, let them take art classes, because schools don't do it. You have to actually make an effort as a parent to create that environment for your children. So
Beautiful.
yeah, inshallah.
Beautiful. Thank you very, very much. A little bit from myself, where I can't actually say anything beyond what you have said, because that's all we had to hear, and it's beautiful, sums up everything. The only thing I would say is going back to that point where we shouldn't kill our own art, we shouldn't kill our own traditions and cultures. We should realize that our toxic and negative self so-called pride would kill our culture. It has been, and it will more. Now there are powers working to do that. So realize that. Promote your art, promote your Afghans, promote your culture, regardless of your ethnicity and tribe and family. Promote it as much as you can. Do not be scared of it. Remember the limit, remember the lines, remember the borders. We can play in a colorful environment and ecstatic rainbow till the day. Samia Karimi محترم تشکر بسیار زیاد. It was an honor. I hope to have you back. I hope that you will make time for us. I wish you luck on all your efforts and all your activities. God bless you. God bless Sophia John. God bless your family. Love you so much. Thank you very much. This is Voices from the Mountains, out for now. Thank you very much.
تشکر. خداحافظ.